dear crypto friends, and welcome to today's video. And today we are going to take a look at this nice green candle that is unfolding today. Will it last? Or is it just a dead cat bounce? Is Bitcoin again playing tricks on us, as it so often likes to do? What is going on? Let us have a look, and for that I have loaded here the Bitcoin chart in the 1 day time frame. That means one candlestick is 1 day. We can zoom out, we see the long-term chart going back all the way to 2010, the logarithmic regression channel, and let us try to identify what is going on. So yeah, the last days I said, guys, we could do something that we did very similar to what we did in May to July 2021, right? We get a situation like this where Bitcoin is wobbling around. So should we already be happy that right now we have a green candle? I don't fully trust it yet, because if we load the Bollinger Band, we have no clear breakout yet, okay? We want to see this go through the Bollinger Band. We want to see it push it through the Bollinger Band. The Bollinger Band should deform to the upside, for example, the way it did here, or here, a very nice example. We want the Bollinger Band to deform to the upside. I see anyways a big resistance line here, so I don't think we can just go through here like it's nothing, and we will have to see how this thing here unfolds. I would really like to see it push through the Bollinger Band within the next days. If not, if it struggles to push through, I think the likelihood will be high that we will get another repeat of such a scenario where we have a fake pump, where Bitcoin pretends to pump. Oh yeah, I will pump, this will be nice, and then pew, and then oh, now I've been pumping, now I'm certainly pumping, pew. And it's playing these tricks on us all the time, and then afterwards, after maybe doing a few fake wicks to the downside, look at how many wicks we had here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 wicks in the daily chart. That was insane. So we could get a few more wicks to the downside. That is absolutely within the realm of possibility. But what we do want to see now for a sustained push higher is, as we know, the Nasdaq should pump. Right? The Nasdaq should continue pumping. Let us load the Nasdaq chart, and we see, okay, yeah, the Nasdaq had this rebound. It started pumping again a few days ago. It seems to be recovering, right? If we go to the weekly, we have a nice bounce here, but it's not yet time to fully rejoice, because this could still pretend to go higher and then at some point still dump lower. We are still not out of the woods yet. Yes, I think, as I said in the last videos, I think the likelihood is higher that we will get a true recovery, but likelihoods, you know how they are in Bitcoin. Some things seem likely and then they still can maybe not happen. So I wouldn't bet everything on it that we are now continuing to go higher. I'm still kind of leaving the possibility open that this could turn into a bounce, and then we still could go a bit lower. Now, what does this depend upon, right? We said, okay, yeah, it is looking actually long-term not so bearish, because the Nasdaq is actually making hidden bullish divergences. We have lower lows in the weekly RSI. We have higher lows in the price. So it's looking kind of bullish. And we have also said that if you just look at the steepness of the Nasdaq, it's not actually looking so steep yet, right? It's not actually in these very steep territories. So it's still rising with a moderate steepness, and has not reached an insane steepness yet. So it could still pump a lot longer than we expect, but still, of course, there's no guarantee for that, because as we saw here, there was also no very high steepness, and we still got a pretty insane dump in the 2008 financial crisis, right? The Nasdaq still dumped, even though it was not insanely steep. It dumped by 54%, right? Which is still pretty insane that you think about it. So what does it depend upon now if we get a sustained pump? Well, the first thing is, of course, the dollar, right? We want the dollar to please not pump too much anymore. Now it seems to be pumping again, and we cannot be 100% sure if it just won't make a new high. If it just continues pumping now and makes a new high, that would not be so good. So we go into the daily chart. Do we see any divergence happening? Well, we saw that the DXY had a bullish divergence here in the 4-hour chart, right? Had a bullish divergence, so it was pretty clear that we would get a bounce, but I still think that this will not be lasting and that we will get another leg down. I still think that this is quite likely to happen. Now, why do I think that? Well, for that, friends, we had the 2-year yields. We always must look at the 2-year yields. Now, why are they so important? Sebastian, what are you talking about? We are here for coins. We are here for coin gains. And now you start again talking about yields? Man, what is going on? So we look at the 2-year yields, and why are they so important, friends? Well, because if we compare them to the stock market, for example, to the Nasdaq, then what do we see here, friends? What do we see here? In orange, the Nasdaq, the candlesticks, the 2-year yields. Well, we see that the problem started with the Nasdaq at the same time when the yields started pumping. So as soon as the yields started really massively pumping to 2.7% where they are now, what happened then? That is when the Nasdaq lost its steam and started reversing. It lost its power and started reversing. This is also what happened back in 2018. If we have a look, the Nasdaq pumped, right? But the yields just wouldn't stop pumping, and then the Nasdaq lost its steam and bam, fell massively. And only afterwards, when the yield started going down, did the Nasdaq continue to pump. So we would like the 2-year yields to please not continue pumping. So if I zoom in here, we would like this new uptrend that has started, now the second green weekly candle, we would like this to be a bounce and then to go lower, and we would not like this here to happen. We would not like the 2-year yields to continue pumping, because if they would continue pumping, we can be pretty sure that this Nasdaq recovery would just remain a dead cat bounce, and at some point, if the yields just continue to pump, it is quite likely that the Nasdaq would actually turn lower and that we would get a new low in the Nasdaq. And what does that mean in turn, friends? That of course means that Bitcoin would also follow, because we have seen in the last videos how insanely positively correlated Bitcoin and the Nasdaq are. The yields are a very important metric besides the CPI for the Fed, with which the Fed is deciding their interest rate policy. So if the yields continue pumping, the Fed will continue tightening. And that means that the Fed funds rate will continue rising, the interest rate will continue rising. That means the dollar will get stronger and will continue pumping. That in turn means that the Nasdaq will dump, and that in turn means that Bitcoin will dump. Let us go back to the Bitcoin chart. Let us go back. Oh, here you can see again the nice correlation of Bitcoin and the Nasdaq, just for the 100th time, so that everyone who is new on this channel can also see how insanely correlated Nasdaq and Bitcoin are. I mean, just look at this. This is ridiculous, especially in the daily chart. You see how ridiculously correlated they are. So let me delete the Nasdaq and we go just into the Bitcoin chart. And now what do we see, friends? We see that Bitcoin, so that means if the 2-year yields continue pumping and then the Nasdaq does a dead cat bounce, this means that Bitcoin will also do a dead cat bounce. This means Bitcoin could pump, it could go to 50,000, 55,000. Everyone is turning bullish. Everyone is like, wow, yes, the bull market is continuing. And then bam, bam, we just go down and down all the way, friends, to what? Well, we would go down to the weekly moving average 290, which corresponds to the daily moving average 2030. Yes, it's strange, but if we zoom in, that is exactly the point where in the March 2020 low, the Bitcoin went. Okay, this is the lowest Bitcoin has ever gone. So we can assume if it flash crashes again so massively, this would be the lowest that Bitcoin could go. So this is the daily moving average of 2030 days. So we see that this average is coming down in a bit lower. So we can assume that by September it would be at around 17 or 18k. So that means, friends, this could turn out to be just a bounce. We go now up until August or something, we go up to 58k, and then we still go down and get a brutal breakdown to the MA 290 week or 2030 days, and then Bitcoin will just wobble around for a few more months and do nothing quite spectacular, and then we can kiss the bull market bye-bye, and then the next bull market would start as late as 2024, friends. Why 2024? Well, because then is the time of the next Bitcoin halving. Let me zoom in into the weekly. That would be the time here in 2024. I think in March, between March and May 2024 is the next Bitcoin halving, and at some point the Fed will loosen again, become more dovish, the dollar will dump again at some point. Even if the Nasdaq now goes into a bear markets typically don't last like 10 years, they last 1, maybe 2 years, tops 3 years like in 2008. So they don't last an extremely long time, so normally we should recover, and even in the worst case scenario we would still get a bull market, I think at the latest in 2024. But we should keep an eye out for such a scenario. Seriously, we should keep an eye out and should not say that this is impossible, because as I said, if now the 2-year yields just continue pumping, that is not a good sign for the stock market. And because Bitcoin is now really treated like a stock, a tech stock, it is unfortunate, but that's the way Bitcoin is currently being treated by the big institutional investors. The problem is that Bitcoin will follow, and if the Nasdaq and SP 500, Dow Jones, if they really do this dead cat bounce, then bam, Bitcoin will also do a dead cat bounce. Bitcoin will not continue pumping here, it will not continue pumping if the Nasdaq does a dead cat bounce and goes to lower values. That is out of the question almost. So we should keep an eye out for this. This is very important. I will keep an eye out for the 2-year yields. I will spot any bearish divergences that might arise in Bitcoin. We will keep the eyes open, friends. We are doing Bitcoin bounce observing here on this channel, so I will spot any possible bearish divergences. Here, for example, back in last year, this should have made us very skeptical, right? The higher highs from February 2021 until April 2021. And what did the RSI do? Made lower highs. This was a very strong bearish divergence. This should have made us very, very skeptical. The same happened here at that peak in October to November 2021. Look at this, how insanely steep this bearish divergence was. Higher highs in the price, lower highs in the RSI. Really bearish divergence. So we now keep an eye open. If this bull run here continues, we will keep an eye open for bearish divergences that might arise in the RSI. And if we then see higher highs in the price, right, we draw a line here, and lower highs in the RSI, we say this is not good, this could turn out to be a bounce. And especially if the 2-year yields will continue pumping, the chances will be very high, friends, that this will turn into a brutal bounce and that we go lower. And that is why I have this channel. That is why I have started this channel now in these darkest times, because it is now more important than ever that we know what is going on and that we know where we are standing, and if Bitcoin is only bouncing or if Bitcoin will in fact continue pumping, something which I hope is really not unlikely. Bitcoin could do a 5-wave, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-wave move. That could still be possible, but of course we will have to follow macroeconomic events and the Fed tightening cycle, the dollar index, Nasdaq, and the 2-year yields, bond yields. That is super important, okay? That is super important, friends. We will follow the market closely. I will make daily update videos on the crypto market so that we can understand where Bitcoin is headed and what is going to happen in the crypto market. I would be happy if you would like this video, if you found the information helpful, and I would of course be happy if you would subscribe to this still small channel. So then, friends, I would say have a nice day and see you in the next update video tomorrow. Bye!